Welcome everyone. Today we're going to have an interview with Jack Zampolin about Cosmos. Everything with IBC, what Atom is trying to achieve and what he wants to achieve in the blockchain space is going to be discussed today in this interview. And yes, he's done the interview outside of his house. Let's get to it, have fun, and don't forget to subscribe beneath. So, as I've just introduced, we're going to have a wonderful conversation with Jack Zampolin, one of the core developers of Atom and doing lots of different stuff in the ecosystem. Welcome, Jack. I'm happy to announce you here. How are you doing?
Yeah, great. Thank you for having me today, Michael. I really appreciate it, and looking forward to talking a little bit more about Cosmos and Atom. Doing great today.
Well, it's wonderful to have a conversation with someone sitting outside. So I hope it's not going to rain fast from now.
No, it's Southern California is nice, and the rain is very infrequent. So that's a wonderful piece of it.
Well, okay, let's get started then. First of all, who are you in general, and what is your entire background? As we had a pre-conversation, and you said that you're doing lots of stuff in the Atom ecosystem and the blockchain space in general. What have brought
Yeah,
you into the blockchain world, and what is your entire background in general?
yeah. So I think like a lot of people in blockchain and in Bitcoin, Bitcoin is what brought me into the blockchain world. I bought my first Bitcoins back in the 2013 rally, and ended up losing a bunch of money in that rally. But what it did tell me is that if I wanted to go work in this really cool, exciting new field, I needed to learn how to program. So I started teaching myself back in around 2014, 2015. Moved to San Francisco and did a boot camp to learn how to program a little bit better, and got my first job in tech in 2015. That was at a company called InfluxDB, and we built databases there. So, databases and blockchains are pretty much the same thing in a lot of ways. All the same sort of like core distributed systems technology that's used to build blockchains is used to build enterprise databases as well. So that was kind of my background in tech. And then in early 2017, I had a roommate who was working at a company called Blockstack, and I went and joined them as the ninth employee. Um, I was a developer evangelist there, and really involved in building the ecosystem of developers around that platform. Was there for about a year, and then joined Cosmos back in early to mid 2018. So, the much less on the sort of like marketing and hype side of blockchains, and much more on the like actual developers and user adoption piece of blockchains. After joining Cosmos, I became the product manager on the hub, and was the product manager at launch for the Cosmos hub. Led the team building the Cosmos SDK for about a year, and then pivoted to working primarily on IBC, which is the Interoperability Protocol for Cosmos. And also worked quite a bit with a company called Akash to help them build out their blockchain, and do their cloud integration stuff. And I'm currently working on a new project. But yeah, long story short, I have worked deeply in the Cosmos ecosystem, and worked really closely with all of the projects to help them come online, and been pretty key in evangelizing and working towards IBC, and getting some adoption there.
Well, as you were saying that you have working in the Cosmos ecosystem for like 3 years now already.
Yep.
Cosmos is around for a long time, but right now it feels like fresh and new in the entire crypto space, right? It's
Yeah.
something different than Ether. Why did it take so long to actually launch Cosmos? And what is the actual goal of Cosmos in itself? What are you trying to achieve with the project?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that to understand that question, it's helpful to go back to the beginning of Cosmos. And Cosmos started back in a series of conversations in 2015 and 2016 between Ethan Buckman, Jay Kwan, and Zucky, and a few others who were kind of the co-founders of the project. And they were really involved in the early Ethereum community. And when Ethereum launched, there were a number of conversations in the Ethereum community. Will proof of work scale for a Turing complete blockchain? And what that means is, we're seeing the scaling problems with Ethereum now, and the computer scientists who were building the platform at the time foresaw that. And there were a few different sort of schools of thought on how to go about building out a platform that can scale to support all of the users all over the globe, billions of users. That's what blockchain, that's sort of the dream of blockchain. And if we as an industry are going to achieve what we have set out to do, we need to reach and support billions of users. So the Ethereum 2 research team and the Polkadot research team have kind of followed this. We need to build a relay chain that has a lot of other chains that connect to it, and will route all the data through there. And that's one way of doing it. But the core idea that the Ethereum team, the Polkadot team, and the Cosmos team all had was that we're going to need a lot more blockchains, and they need to be not proof of work. They need to be something else called proof of stake. So the Tendermint team kind of went off on their own and worked on this proof of stake platform that they already had, based on this fundamental research on proof of stake that Jae Kwon did, to create this algorithm called Tendermint, which is the consensus layer that underlies all of the proof of stake networks within Cosmos. We're quoted in the first page of the Libra white paper that Facebook wrote as the inspiration for their consensus algorithm. And actually, Tendermint is the sort of fundamental innovation that has made the proof of stake space possible. So that's what we build on top of. And so we built out that proof of stake system, and that was ready and started having users on it as early as about 2016, 2017. And around that time period, the market had started to heat up, and the team was thinking, okay, so we have this basic proof of stake technology that we've developed. That's not going to scale to billions of users. Individual chains are going to be able to support millions of users, but not billions. So how do we create a system where these chains can talk to each other the same way that computers that are connected to the internet can talk to each other? Where Michael, I can send you money on whatever chain you're transacting on from whatever chain I'm transacting on, and to make that experience seamless. And they came up with this idea of inter-blockchain communication, or IBC. And that allows, it uses a protocol very similar to HTTP and TCP/IP, which is what secures all the communication that we do today. And we took that protocol and we made it work for 2 blockchains. And that's basically what we've been working on for a while. So that's sort of how Cosmos started. And as to why it has taken so long, these problems are really hard. They've required a lot of advancement in cryptography, and there's a lot of engineering work that has to go into building these platforms. In the Cosmos ecosystem, we have really focused solely on making the engineering breakthroughs and ensuring that we have a working system before we go out and start marketing this thing. So we just launched IBC, and now we're starting to work much more heavily on marketing to folks outside of our core audience, which are blockchain developers.
Well, it's like the thing is right now that Ethereum has so many issues with gas fees and scalability in itself. It's still proof of work, but they are working on proof of scale. How are you going to, or how are you looking at the whole Ethereum platform right now? Like, for instance, if it's going to be proof of scale and the scalability issues are going to disappear on Ethereum, then the overall purpose of Cosmos could also shift, right?
Well, I think that I'm going to answer this question by talking about how computing started. When computing started, we built larger and larger supercomputers. We had the ENIAC first. We built a series of supercomputers as a civilization between the 50s and the 70s. And in the late 70s was kind of when the personal computing era took off. Scientists and researchers and engineers for a long time thought that we were going to build larger and larger individual computers until we had one large computer that could do all of the computation that we needed. And Anyone who wanted to use that would use time sharing to log into that computer and then do the computing that they needed and then go away. Those theorists didn't think about how networked computers would work, because how would they know? But what ended up happening is the power of a large number of distributed computers that are connected ended up being vastly numbers of times greater than these large supercomputers. And we saw that really flip fully in the early 2000s with Google bringing their MapReduce clusters online and showing that a large warehouse full of commodity computers was actually much more powerful than any individual supercomputer. And we're in the process of learning that again with blockchains. There is going to be no one blockchain that contains all of the economic activity. There's going to be a network of interconnected blockchains that support economic activity. And I think the Ethereum network, it has this huge adoption behind it. I'm currently working on a project to bridge Cosmos to Ethereum. I've got a lot of friends who work in the Ethereum ecosystem. I think they're fantastic. But this world, which Cosmos envisions, it's a truly multi-chain world where liquidity is fragmented across all of these chains, and there's a lot of these different systems. And the way that you profit in that is to connect to a lot of these different systems and to build services that all of these different systems end up relying on. Like, that world is the world we're moving into. As we're seeing this L2 conversation on Ethereum, like, some of those L2s are Cosmos chains. Terra, which is one of the most exciting L2s on Ethereum right now, is a Cosmos chain. Crypto.com is a Cosmos chain. The Cosmos Hub, Binance chain is a Cosmos chain. Like, this idea that we had as a community back in 2015, 2016 that we've been building on for the last 5 years is a reality that we're seeing today. There's hundreds of chains out there with significant economic activity on them, and you need to be able to connect to all of those in order to really connect the whole ecosystem.
Oh, it's already great to hear somebody speaking in an open-minded vision rather than just being very toxic and saying, no, our own project is going to be the one that's going to be, well, used by the entire world, which is just not going to happen. As in, it's going to be an open ecosystem where everybody's connected with each other, just like we do it with the internet nowadays, right? It's just a second layer of the internet, or a third layer, how you would say it. With like so many projects being focused on interoperability, there are so many different routes in it. Icon is trying to do it with one chain, and other projects, Atom is trying to achieve it. Why do you believe that Cosmos will become one of the big players or become a major part in that entire world that we're going to go for?
Cosmos has been the pioneer in interoperability technology for years. Wanchain and Icon both basically read our white paper and tried to copy what we were doing. But the thing is they don't have the
engineers. They are an Ethereum killer, they said.
We've never claimed to be an Ethereum killer. We have always looked forward to this multi-chain world. And like, that's part of the core DNA of Cosmos is we're not maximalist. Like, we believe that there's going to be a lot of blockchains. We love the technology all throughout the space, and the pace of innovation will slow if there is just one chain. And like, we see that with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is this like huge one chain, but as far as technological innovation, it's frozen. So where is the technological innovation happening? It's happening on other chains in the space. And that's invariably what's going to happen. But as far as interoperability, why is Cosmos the best one? We've consistently worked on, we've consistently shipped, and we've consistently improved on these interoperability designs. And we are first to market with IBC. There's nothing close to IBC that exists out there in the market. And in terms of adoption, like, I spent my morning before this call connecting the Cosmos Hub to the Crypto.com chain. Like, there's a little bit more to work out, a couple of proofs that we need to get working, but all of the on-chain pieces are there. And like, this network is just going to continue to grow. Like, I think there's 4 major chains with over $100 million in economic activity on them connected to the Cosmos Hub now. We're going to see that number 10x within the next 2 to 3 months. And this this is the key part for interoperability. It's not building the best tech. It's not like these other things. It's actually building a large network that has real economic value on it, that's using these interoperability pipes. And we are years ahead of our closest competition in doing that.
Well, it's at least interesting, as in recently the overall discussion of second layers and solutions for the Ethereum network and the interoperability has got into a huge momentum, as in Ethereum still has many issues. It's being worked on, but it takes ages, which is probably the fact of being complex technology in general. Do you believe that the overall focus of interoperability and second layer or L2s has taken such a momentum because of the issues that Ethereum has with its own platform nowadays?
Yeah, I think that we've seen this with every bull cycle. The largest chain ends up becoming congested, fees spike, and this drives users out to competitors. We saw this in 2013. Bitcoin prices spike, the fees spike with it. Users move over to chains like Litecoin and Namecoin, and what were the top 10 in that cycle. And then in 2017, we again see fees on Bitcoin spike, and we see fees on Ethereum spike, and that drives users out to other chains. And we're seeing it again in 2021. Fees on the core chains that are most traffic spike, driving users out to other chains. This is the multi-chain future that we are running towards headlong, and a lot of the ecosystem doesn't really want to acknowledge. They want to think in this sort of maximalist way. This investment that I made, this chain that I want to work on, this is going to be the one that everyone uses, while ignoring what is much more likely, which is that this chain that I work on is one of many chains, and it has advantages, and we can bring in users, which is a great story to tell, because that means there's room in this industry for a lot more than one individual blockchain. And that's the story that we're telling over at Cosmos. That's the story we've been telling for a long time, and we've built the technology to make that a reality in a permissionless way.
Well, it's also something that I've been seeing in the past months is all those collabs between projects and platforms, as everybody's trying to build that open ecosystem that Atom is also trying to achieve, which is also through smart contract platforms and that entire financial system that we want to have fully decentralized. How do you see Bitcoin in this entire perspective? As in, Bitcoin is fully decentralized, but has its own issues with scalability and maybe more, as it's also proof of work. How do you see that going into the future from here?
Yeah, I mean, one of the major items on the Cosmos Hub roadmap for this year is a Bitcoin bridge to allow Bitcoin users to deposit their funds into a multi-sig on Bitcoin that is controlled by a validator set over on a Cosmos chain. And then those funds just move across the bridge in a permissionless manner. Bitcoin is the first and most important cryptocurrency network. We are all here because of Bitcoin. There's like no getting around that. And
or Dogecoin.
There's or those people too. I think Sunny Agrawal, who's one of the core developers of Cosmos, always talks about how Dogecoin was his first crypto, I think. But we're all here because of Bitcoin, and there's millions and millions, I think trillions of dollars of collateral sitting over on that network right now. And as the ability for them to use these networks in a permissionless fashion, i.e. them being Bitcoin holders, and I am one of them, that doesn't rely on centralized pipes like WBTC, increases, and the appetite for returns continues to grow, we're going to see people move their Bitcoins over into these economic machines that allow them to lend those Bitcoins out or borrow on top of those Bitcoins. This is just inevitable. If there's money that's looking for returns, it's going to go find those somewhere. And what it wants is permissionless access to those sources of yield. And that's what IBC is offering. And that's what, all of these projects pegging to Bitcoin are offering. There's a project in the Cosmos ecosystem that's doing this called Thorchain. And they're, very Bitcoin maximalist over there and working really hard with that community to familiarize them with the technology, assure them about the security model, and to get folks to move their Bitcoin over. It's still early in this process, but I do anticipate, especially towards the end of the year, we're going to start seeing a lot of Bitcoin moving over these permissionless bridges, looking for yield.
Well, we have been discussing IBC a little bit now. Could you give a summary or a full explanation of what IBC is and why it's so important for Cosmos for the listeners?
Yeah, for sure. So, the analogy that I used earlier is like a web connection. Michael, your computer and my computer basically shook hands on the internet, and they established each other's identity. And they said, okay, it's okay to transfer data between these two computers. And that's what IBC does. There's a handshake process where the chains identify each other, and then they're able to send packets of data back and forth across this connection. I know that's super technical, and when you start talking about packets, people's eyes glaze over. But with that packet, an individual packet can say, I want to send funds from Akash over to the Cosmos hub. I want to send funds from the Cosmos hub over to Akash. And right now, that's all the packets say. They are just for transferring tokens between one chain and another. In the future, there's going to be a lot more complex applications, things like cross-chain staking, where that's a pretty complex one, but basically you would rent security from another chain and pay that validator set there. This has implications for atom economics, which is very interesting, but also kind of a bit difficult to describe. For folks who are familiar with Polkadot, this would be like shared security, where in Polkadot, the relay chain is able to secure a bunch of chains underneath it. This is how we do it in Cosmos, where the chains underneath have to opt in and convince the chain that they're buying security from to sell it to them. And then there's an economic relationship that's established there. But at its core, IBC is just this handshake, and then the ability to send packets over top of that verified data channel, essentially.
Oh, we have also, like, IBC took some time to get launched, as in Cosmos is around for 3 years, and the entire crypto space has shifted massively in those 3 years, as we got many different types of smart contract platforms nowadays as well. What is your overall thought on the process that the entire ecosystem or crypto space is doing right now? How did it shift in the past 3 years? And did you expect this massive shift to happen so quick? As in 3 years ago, we were discussing crypto kitties, and now it's all about financial systems that we are building decentralized.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first time I put money in a liquidity pool, just like a couple $100 or, borrowed $500 off of MakerDAO, was at the beginning of 2018. Like, the shape of what we're seeing now was obvious in 2018. So for me personally, like, what we're seeing in this cycle isn't terribly surprising. And, the changes in the industry are, basically the things that were identified back in 2018 as being likely to drive significant user growth, i.e. DeFi, is driving the narrative in this cycle. And, NFTs are another example of that, but that's just decentralized art and, essentially copyrights on a blockchain. So it's, I don't think terribly surprising to me the way things have shaken out. And, the fact that Ethereum is having scaling issues due to large volumes of traffic, pretty easy to foretell.
Yes, but like Ethereum could become that main platform once again, right? Right now we see a huge shift from Ethereum towards other projects as costs are relatively high on the Ethereum network. What will happen if they upgrade to a scalability issue and developers go back towards Ethereum? Does that make a large shift or not?
So where are these projects moving?
Well, for instance, to Atom.
Yeah, to Atom. Some of them are moving to Atom for sure.
Or Polkadot or Cardano. Well, nothing is still there on Cardano, but they want to move. But
also, nothing really on Polkadot either.
True.
They're moving to things like Terra and Optimism and Matic, and a lot of those platforms are saying, "Hey, your contract's over on Ethereum. Just move them over here." we offer the exact same APIs and interfaces,
Mhm.
and they're moving those projects over. So like, that's like kind of moving, that's like not really moving out of the Ethereum ecosystem. That's just kind of staying within the ecosystem in a different way. But yeah, I mean, will there be large chains that have huge user bases because of legacy reasons? Is Ethereum going to be one of those? Yeah, highly likely. The economic center of gravity that's been created there is significant. And the fact that it's been around for, I think 5 or 6 years in a really major way at this point means that when people think of a secure smart contracting platform, the first thing they think of is Ethereum. Will it be the only secure smart contracting platform? Will it be the largest? I don't really have an opinion on those things. I will say I think that the Ethereum community is incredibly vibrant, and they ship incredible technology and are continuing to improve on the platform. And when you see folks from the core team going to do things like build Matic, which is essentially, a way to move a bunch of projects off of Ethereum, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not the core Ethereum chain retains its edge. Whether or not, I do think that the EVM and Solidity in this sort of Web3 interface that's become standard across all these layer twos for Ethereum, I do think that EVM and that Web3 set of interfaces is going to be with us for a very long time. Whether or not that economic activity ends up centering on Ethereum or not, I don't know. And yeah.
I guess you don't matter, or you don't really care that much whether it's going to be Ethereum or another one. It's just going to be ending up with those chains, right? So
yeah.
We've also discussed IBC, and it's just launched. You are also collaborating a lot with other projects. What can we expect from Atom in the near future? As you said, you're going to start marketing right now, so I
Yeah.
expect like daily partnerships going to be out there. No, I'm kidding. But what can we expect from Atom in general from here onwards?
Yeah. That's a great question. So, as far as the marketing goes, I started a governance proposal in the Cosmos Hub back at the beginning of this year to raise some money for marketing initiatives that are led by the ecosystem. We asked for around $750,000 for that, and because of the rise in Atom prices, we now have a budget of a few million. So we've been spending that money on marketing. We're going to continue to spend that money on marketing Atom in the greater Cosmos ecosystem. So that work is ongoing. Also, the major organizations such as the ICF and Tendermint, who are have some of the core dev teams and marketing teams behind Cosmos and Atom, are starting campaigns to promote IBC and to promote Atom now. So marketing's coming along. And as far as the partnerships piece of it, I think every time that the Cosmos Hub connects to a new chain, that is a new partnership. So like this morning, I was working on connecting Cosmos Hub to the new crypto.com chain. I'm also working on connecting it to the Akash chain. And once those things are live, you'll see us make some announcements about that and start making some noise. And with, I think, around 40 to 50 live production Cosmos SDK chains, you can imagine a long string of partnership announcements that are enabled by IBC. So that is a huge part of the storyline for Atom. It's going to be happening over the next few months. Another part, we have a DEX that's going to be live on the Cosmos Hub within the next 2 months. The core developer behind that, bharvest, has done some amazing work there, and there's a lot of exciting stuff happening there. So a DEX. Other huge features that are going to be coming to the Cosmos Hub this year, shared security. So I was talking about the ability for one chain to like rent security from another chain. The Cosmos Hub has this great, really decentralized set of validators that are spread all over the world. And that's kind of a hard thing about launching your own Cosmos chain, is like finding all these validators. So this shared security feature will allow chains that are getting started to ask the Cosmos Hub validators to validate their chain as well, and then pay them in their own token. So that looks a lot like the sort of Polkadot shared security thing. That's going to be live in Q4. there's a lot of work being done on a Bitcoin bridge. So the ability to move Bitcoins over into the Cosmos ecosystem and to use them as collateral in various DeFi applications. And then I think the other major item on the Cosmos Hub roadmap that I'm really excited about this year is staking derivatives. So this is right now when you stake your atoms, you're not able to do anything with them once they're staked. This would enable that staked position to be moved between addresses and used in various DeFi applications. So the same way we're seeing farming, YIFI is enabling users Wi-Fi. How do people say that? Do you say YIFI?
EV. Wi-Fi
YIFI.
sounds weird.
I know, it all sounds weird to me. Like the same way you're seeing users do automatic reinvesting of their liquidity pool rewards and things like that with YFI, we'll be able to do that with these stake positions over on Cosmos Hub.
So if we discuss DeFi and EV and all those other projects, how do you see the entire future of DeFi in itself? As in, there's a big group of people that are looking into DeFi as a real solution of the system that we currently use, which is our financial and monetary system, etc. But there's also a bunch of people trying to get the highest API they can get and to rug pull everyone.
Yep.
Where do you see DeFi going from here? As in, right now we also have the NFT hype. What do you believe is the future in general?
Yeah, so what I see is the crypto ecosystem organically rediscovering a lot of structures that are used in traditional banking.
Yes.
So, and I expect to see that trend continue. And YIFI sort of is a great example of that. They're taking these sort of first level financial products and taking them and wrapping them and making, value added products for which they take a fee. That model, we're going to see that grow orders of magnitude. And the complexity, what we see with Uniswap v3 right now is the complexity of these exchanges is increasing drastically. That's going to make it harder for you and me and sort of the average liquidity provider to get in there and provide liquidity on these platforms. So you're going to need to see intermediate platforms that do a lot of the hard automation and other work to enable providing liquidity on Uniswap, wrap those into products, and give you and me something that looks a lot like Uniswap LP position right now. So as the complexity increases, as the number of users increases by orders of magnitude, we're going to see the things that are needed in the financial system, in the traditional financial system in terms of intermediaries, show up in crypto in new ways. And that is the next 5 years of DeFi.
But even if you discuss liquidity pools or anything regarding farming, and I'm going to try to explain it to my parents, they have absolutely no clue what I'm talking about. So how are we going to drive mass adoption in general if we are building those DeFi systems? Do we have to create a beautiful UI so that people literally don't know that they are using blockchains, like we just do with HTTP protocols right now as well? Yep. What's going to be needed to get that mass adoption going?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. One, UIs is a huge piece of it. But I will say that using MetaMask and Kepler, which is the primary wallet for Cosmos and Atom, is a much better experience than sending a wire transfer. It's actually pretty easy once you figure out how to start using it. And if you know how to secure your private key through multi-sigs and all of this other stuff, it's pretty secure. I think that the hard parts on user experience are mainly around key recovery and the ability to keep a mnemonic phrase safe and what are the best practices there. That's really hard for a lot of people. I think we see social key recovery schemes and some of these other things that are sort of in research right now and are just starting to be deployed become more and more prevalent. But that's one piece of it. And then another piece of it is a regulatory piece. Right now, crypto lives in a gray area. My wife, we're doing our taxes this year, and my wife said, it's almost like we live in a foreign country. We live in the internet. And if you're a resident of a lot of first world countries right now and you work in crypto, that's kind of what you feel like. your banking people look at you and they're like, what are you guys doing? And,
Staking, farming.
yeah. And you're like, here's my income reports. This is all I can do. I'm paying my taxes. And, as this becomes more and more normal and more people are involved in these activities and we get regulatory certainty around them, the marketing, the level of user experience is going to increase. So I think that, to answer your question, what is needed for DeFi mass adoption? What is needed for the next 100 million billion users to join these platforms? Better key recovery, better user experience around key ownership, and regulatory certainty and clarity, which is going to come over the next few years.
Well, I guess the entire aspect of regulatory frameworks is going to take ages, as in I'm going to wait for the call of the government saying, hey, yes, so you've made this amount of money with staking. Could you please explain it? Like, that's just not going to happen. It's going to take such a long time.
Yeah.
But I think user experience and also
Well,
need
I think
is
that
going to be the first thing.
If you look at, Circle Financial is a company in the United States that's really driving forward on some of the regulatory stuff. They're the company behind USDC. The Office of the Currency Comptroller earlier this year cleared USDC and other stablecoin instruments to be used for interbank transfers instead of SWIFT. This is something that Ripple's been working on for decades, but something on Ethereum got there first. Yeah, not decades. It hasn't been
Let's
decades.
not discuss Ripple.
Yeah, let's not. But anyway, it's like these regulatory hurdles are getting cleared and it's happening. And, we're going to see that increasingly over the next few years as adoption kicks up. And, the initial signs are scary, but promising. I think anytime when you're dealing with governments and the sort of like monopoly on force that they have, there's some trepidation, but I do think that crypto is one of these fundamental advances that is not going to be able to be stopped, and these governments are going to figure out a way to regulate it in a way that helps business and helps the end users.
But don't you also believe that the overall pushes towards decentralized finance or everything surrounding our current crypto space also is improved by just having a very bad economy in itself? Like, I know that Turkey or all those countries have a massive community because their own currency is just crashing down, so they have to opt out. Is that going to push the entire system or even crypto space even more forward?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, this is the way, like, if you read that hyper Bitcoinization article on the Nakamoto Institute, and if you look at those kind of hypotheses, like this idea that countries that are experiencing currency defaults or other extreme economic events will invariably be pushed to greater crypto adoption as their citizens seek stability. And like, we're just going to continue to see that. Like, that's happening today in Nigeria and Zimbabwe and some of these African countries where they're seeing hyperinflation. It's happening in Turkey. The amount of inbound interest I see from Turkish investors is huge. So yeah.
But like, even in Turkey, like 10% of my followers are Turkish. I don't speak Turkish, but I just constantly get DMs in Turkish, which is fine.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to learn it, I guess.
They're great people. Yeah, all of the Turks that I've met online are fantastic, and very excited that they're excited about the crypto stuff.
Yeah, it's almost becoming a religion over there. I believe so. I believe like. Let's round off this conversation that I have with you. And the final question that I always have to the people that are coming towards me for an interview is, if you're 40 years older from now, what is your life goal? What will make you happy? As you're currently in the blockchain space, you're a kind of idealist. You're trying to make the world better. What is your overall personal goal in life?
Yeah, my goal with this work is to ensure that my kids and their kids have the same kind of financial freedom that we have. And I think if we see the way that surveillance and financial surveillance especially is becoming this massive problem, and where banks like don't really let people use their own money, like when you deposit your money in a bank, you're beholden to their policies and whatever the government tells them to do. And what we're building here in the crypto industry is truly a global system that embeds these values of freedom and liberty within these systems. And what I'd like to see in 40 years is these systems be the way that everyday people interact and transact. So yeah, that's the future I'm building for. And that timeline is definitely something that's on my mind as well. When you're building something that's like the internet for blockchains, like you're building that so that you can scale to billions of users and really have these type of permissionless decentralized financial systems adopted. And that's what we're working on in Cosmos.
Well, I do believe that it's not going to take 40 years, but even like 10 years, and we're going to use it all, I guess.
Let's hope.
Let's
hope and keep working towards it, and we will make it happen.
All right, man. I guess it's inevitable. So, but thank you very much, man. Where can we find you if you post any of your information? Is it Twitter? What are your socials? Do you have anything to add as well to this conversation?
Yeah,
like a special.
Well, as far as Twitter, I'm Jack_Zampolin on Twitter. That's where I post most frequently. If you want to check out my new project, check it out at sommelier.finance. Let's see. And, the only thing I really have to add is, Michael, thank you very much for spending the time with me today to talk about Cosmos and to talk about this ecosystem. I really appreciate your time, and I really appreciate you spending it with me. So thank you very much.
Well, it was a pleasure having this conversation with you, sitting outside of your house.
Yeah,
the only real connection. Thanks for being here, and have a wonderful day, man. And good luck with Atom.
Yeah, thank you very much.